We are standing right on the edge of mastering one of the most powerful and maybe one of the most consequential technologies in all of human history. And that's the ability to literally edit our own DNA. This isn't science fiction anymore. This is happening right now. And it really promises to change everything we thought we knew about health, about identity, about what it even means to be human. Okay, let's dive into this.
Just think about that for a second. Imagine a world without hereditary diseases. A world where conditions like cystic fibrosis, or Huntington's, or sickle cell anemia aren't just treated, but they're permanently erased from a family's future. Completely gone. That's the incredible promise that sits right at the heart of genetic engineering.
So, what are we really talking about here? Well, the term is human genetic enhancement, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's the direct modification of our genes. Now, this can be to fix something that's gone wrong, to cure disease, or it could be to improve what we already have, changing everything from our physical performance to our intelligence.
Right now, the focus is squarely on health. So on one side, you've got gene therapy. Think of it like a biological mechanic, going in to repair a specific broken gene in someone who's already sick. But on the other side, you have disease prevention, which is even more proactive. That's about modifying genes to prevent a disease from ever showing up in the first place, kind of like a genetic vaccine.
For decades, this was all just, theory. It was something to talk about. But one technology came along and changed literally everything, making precise, affordable gene editing a reality. And I am talking, of course, about CRISPR.
So how does this incredible biological tool actually work? Well, it's surprisingly elegant. First, you have a guide molecule that acts like a tiny GPS, and it hones in on the exact sequence of DNA that we want to change. Second, an enzyme called Cas9, and you can just think of it as a pair of molecular scissors, makes a clean, precise cut right there in the DNA strand. And finally, with the DNA snipped, scientists can go in and repair, delete, or even replace that piece of genetic code. It's basically a find, cut, and paste tool for our own biology.
And listen, this isn't just happening in some far-off lab. CRISPR is already being used in clinical trials against some of our most difficult diseases. We're talking about trials aimed at correcting the mutations that cause sickle cell disease, disrupting the HIV virus, and even targeting devastating conditions like Alzheimer's and ALS. The potential here to just relieve suffering is absolutely immense.
But, and this is a big but, with this incredible power to heal comes an equally powerful set of questions. Because once you master the ability to fix something, you also gain the ability to, improve it. And that's where things start to get really complicated.
This is the question that looms over this entire field. It's one thing to prevent a child from inheriting a fatal disorder, right? But it's another thing entirely to start choosing traits. So where exactly is the line between therapy and enhancement? And who gets to draw it?
And this is the central conflict right here. On one side, the benefits are just undeniable, curing diseases, maybe improving our capabilities, strengthening our bodies, but the concerns are just as profound. Could this lead to a new form of eugenics, social injustice? What about unforeseen biological side effects? And maybe most importantly, many of these changes could be passed down. They'd be heritable, meaning we'd be making decisions for generations that haven't even been born yet.
And believe me, the conversation is already moving way beyond medicine. People are talking about using this tech to enhance athletic performance. You hear the term gene doping, or to alter physical appearances. And even more profound are the ideas to enhance things like memory and intelligence, or even to modify behavioral traits like aggression.
And if you think this is all just some distant hypothetical debate, well, think again. According to U.S. intelligence, the push for enhancement is already happening. This statement about creating biologically enhanced soldiers, it brings the most extreme fears about this technology right into the stark light of today's geopolitical reality.
Okay, so clearly we can't just let this technology run wild. The stakes are just way too high. So the question then becomes, how do we navigate this future responsibly? All around the world, there's this growing call for oversight. We're seeing new scientific organizations forming to create ethical guidelines. There are proposals for a global observatory to just monitor the research. And crucially, there's a really strong consensus that this conversation cannot be left to scientists alone. It requires a global dialogue, one that's grounded in universal principles like human dignity and well-being.
The challenges that are still ahead of us really fall into two big camps. On the technical side, scientists are still working to make gene editing even more precise, to reduce any unintended off-target effects, and to figure out the safest ways to actually deliver these tools into the human body. But the ethical hurdles are just as significant. How do we prevent misuse? How do we make sure everyone has fair access? And how do we finally agree on that blurry line between healing and enhancing?
Which brings us to our final and maybe biggest question. For the first time in the history of our species, we have the tools to actually direct our own evolution. We are gaining the power to rewrite our own source code. So the question we're all left with is not if we will use this power, but how, and who among us gets to decide.